Hey, this is Jon Stockman. I'm here in Leipzig with Karnivool doing our Inverses tour, and I was just going to show you through my rig and also go through my basses that I use. So this is a main bass that I use. This is my second Warwick I ever owned. It's a custom Corvette that I ordered in 2004. So this is 22-year-old bass. Basically, I had a Corvette Standard and I was looking for something a little bit different sonically with a little bit more control over my tone. So I've ordered this bass. It's also a Corvette and I changed it to a 3-band EQ. Originally, I also ordered this bass and it came with an ebony fingerboard, a Vancom neck, Afcelia body. At the time when I was playing it, I was experiencing sort of like a little bit too much brightness in the way that I played. What I was lucky enough to do was to get the Warwick rep in Perth to basically swap my necks. So this is actually the neck off my first bass. We put the other neck onto my old bass and both of them sounded better. So this is what I was left with. It's just got the soap bar, MEC pickups, active of course, and yeah, it's a main workhorse that I use for most of the stuff. It's also the one of two basses that I take on the road with me, the other being my thumb neck through. There's a couple of little bespoke additions to this. There's a little bit of tape here. That's kind of like a water ingress solution. So basically sometimes I would sweat opposite in the hotter months of the year when I'm playing. If you see here, I've also got like a little divot right there. That's where my thumb has kind of been resting for a couple of decades. So I would sort of be positioned around here and most of the sweat that would run off my arm would kind of come down here. Over the years, it would just sort of sometimes cause problems inside the electronics. So that's just sort of to keep that stuff out. It's definitely got some battle scars. I mean, there's lots of belt buckles chipped into the back there as well. It's done a really good job of, supporting the touring that we've done over the years, and it's great in the studio, and I love using it just generally. It's got like a little bit of a difference to the way it plays compared to the thumb. There's a different sort of feel of like the accessibility to the upper axis of the fingerboard on the thumb. This is 24 fret. I think the thumb's 26 frets. It just sort of like allows a lot more access to the frets that you would use. Yeah, it's still the same electronics that it's had since it was bought back 22 years ago. The other thing about both these basses, they're tuned in this tuning that we have in Karnivool. When I went to buy this 6-string, not this one, but the first Corvette, I was playing in the band, I was playing on a 4-string, and the tuning that I had on the 4-string was these 4 strings here only. So it was a B, F sharp, B, G. And that was just to be able to play the natural harmonics of one of the tunes that we were playing at the time. I found over the years that it was a little bit hard to sometimes play the 5th because we're in B, and I had to always be up here playing the F sharp. So I just wanted to be able to occasionally play it there, so it was a little bit easier to navigate some parts. I went in to buy a 5-string. They didn't have any 5 strings, they only had a 6. So I said, okay, I'll just get a 6, and that's pretty much the reason, for sure. Okay. The tuning of this is, an easy way to think of it is that, so there's your 4 standard strings on a 4-string. These 3 are just upper tone. So it puts it into what you'd say would be a drop B if you're in C sharp for these strings, and then these 2 are in standard tuning. So it's B, F sharp, B, E, G, C. I've stuck with that tuning for the entire time I've been playing Karnivool and writing music. The only time I've had to change that tuning is for a couple of songs on an asymmetry that were in A sharp, which I vehemently, tried to resist, but the songs are still in A sharp. So all I did was I just tuned this B down to an A sharp and learned how to play the songs with that, so I didn't have to have a huge logistical nightmare during another 2 basses just for that. So yeah. So yeah, that's about all I've got to say about this Corvette. Just grab my other bass. Yeah, so this bass I got, I think, in 2006, roughly. So which would be 20 years. It's a thumb bass, a thumb neck through it. Beautiful work of art, and I love the neck through action on it as well. It's currently missing its truss rod cover, but it's somewhere in our pack. But this is tuned exactly the same as the Corvette. Has a very different tone. I'd definitely say this has more of like a signature sort of Warwick tone, and hence it's sort of positioned as a flagship model. Once again, it's got the 3-band EQ, SOPAR pickups, active, has a bit more of a contoured back than something other than a Corvette. Still a little beaten up. Also has a thumb divot there, I noticed, for my thumb being put there. It's a lot easier to play the upper parts on this. I often use this one to record parts that I do have up there and sort of go between different basses in the recording environment. And then live, I don't have to make compromises, but it's lovely to play. And I think the first time I started to use this was a regional show in Western Australia. The first time I played it, I sort of started coming up with a riff that ended up becoming a song called We Are, which is on Asymmetry. And yeah, I find this one so much easier to play in a certain way, but also just because of its age, maybe my ignorance and sort of looking after it at times as well, it's sort of suffered a little bit of warping, which is the nature of having an instrument that's made of wood as well. The main difference in the sound is just where the pickups really are. On this model, compared to the other one, they're much closer together. Corvette's neck one would probably be about there and there, but these ones are closer together and on a slight tilt as well. So it really predominantly picks up a lot more of the bridge sort of area tone, which gives it that growl, I guess you could say. These are not the original pickups, and it's only because I think I broke the original ones through mistreatment without really realising it, where I was sort of hitting them with a ring that I was using on my finger because it gave this awesome sound, but it probably is the reason why the pickups stopped working. So this has got slightly different, or it's newer electronics, but they're still like 15 years old or something. So it's really comfortable to play. The sustain on this is really good too. This is my pedal board that I use for the shows. It's a lot more condensed, and it's a much smaller footprint than it was in the past. One that was probably 4 times as big, maybe 6 times as big as this. Just in the more recent years, it's just become a lot harder to tool with stuff that is heavy and large. So as a means to sort of get around that, we've all made the jump to different sort of solutions around that. I'm currently using predominantly this quad Cortex, and I'm using it because it did a really good job of capturing all the pedals that I use, which are a bunch of Darkglass pedals and Boss pedals and Eventide as well. But basically, because it did a great job of doing that, I'm happy to use it live and still feel like the quality of the sound is where it needs to be. Basically, I'm using as well this Temple audio board, which I love these boards. And in this instance, what I'm doing is I'm just sort of going into the pedal board, splitting to a passive DI after the tuner. And the tuner's really there to see, for me as well, what my tuning is like when I'm playing live, but also to be a bypass for that passive DI, because there's no other way to mute that signal to the front of house. And if I use the tuner elsewhere or after that point, it just mutes everything but the clean. So that's sort of the path that goes in the tuner, into the DI, then into the quad Cortex. I'm only really using this one other pedal at the moment, which is this H90, and that's just to get some of the modulation and time-based effects that I want off that, and to sort of also offload it a bit so that I'm not, having everything running through the quad Cortex and eating up its CPU. I've also got this Morningstar MC3, which is a great way to just quickly communicate to the Cortex for some of the needs that I have, which might be, in this case, just changing between the different views that I want. And I've got like a amp sim coming out of that, which I use, as well as just the analog out, which goes over there to my 2 Darkglass heads. That's getting my kind of effects DI. So I've got the clean DI, effects DI, cab sim, and then I've got the actual live sound through the amp. And that's also got another capture there for our front of house guy. So right now I'm at this end of the signal chain. I'm going into the top Alpha Omega 900 head here. This is a red one because it's a limited edition. That's providing my stage sound. It's got 2 DIs on the back, one for the cab sim and one for the pre-DI, which is often the DI that a lot of in-house engineers will go for as well. So it stopped having the problem where you couldn't use the cab sim if that was also what you wanted to use. And yeah, this EQ changes all the time. It's the way that we tune the rig to the needs of the room, because there's a big difference between working in a studio and then coming to a live room. I've actually meticulously put my settings and everything I've done on a record come into pre-production. I've got feedback, all sorts of stuff, all these problems because I'm not really in this like perfectly treated space to do it. So it kind of changed my thinking around what the live needs to be compared to that studio, because it's going to have to sound different anyway to work within the space because it's a big square. I mean, this one's a lot better because it's got a pitched roof, but you know, a lot of these like low roof sort of rectangle sort of shapes, they're not necessarily going to recreate the tone you think you're going to get. And it sort of means that, you know, you don't have to necessarily think the same way about both things. For this one in particular, it's got a lot more options than I'm actually currently utilising. And because I've captured all of my tones with that, I'm really running this as a clean amp. And this is my backup amp, or it has come in handy as a power amp for the other guys when we've had noises that they haven't been able to eliminate. It's really light too, weighs nothing. This tour I'm actually using a Ampeg 410 just because, yeah, just once again weight and the touring needs. And I think I would normally be using Ashdown 810s, and I don't think they had that in 410 for this particular backline company. It's good to have like an actual live rig still in the mix. I know a lot of bands do fine without that, but it seems to just make the experience better for everybody. It feels like you can feel it, and also it's good to listen to, I think, if you're watching side of stage, because you can actually hear the instruments as well, which is sometimes a problem if everything's going through PA only. But having said that, yeah, it's reliable. Once again, a little bespoke thing set up on Mitch, which is my pick holder for the one song that I use it for. And yeah, that's my rig.